Welcome back. Such a long time. A year ago, we were pretty much still locked in our houses. And it's good to have everyone here today. This Wednesday, we also had a very good turnout for the remembrance of Father Llorente's 11th anniversary since his passing. And we celebrate today on this Saturday, this first Saturday of the month, the day of our Mother Mary. Being a Marian congregation, it's appropriate that we get together in family to celebrate this day. And so for many that hadn't been back here since a year or for a while, welcome back. It's good to have you here. We are also followed online from far away and near also, that those who are following us right now, also welcome them to this celebration today. Today is a day of renewal for us. It's a day of renewal. Every Sunday we remember the renewal of our baptismal promises. And the resurrection of our baptism as well. It's the day of the resurrection. And that is the mystery into which we're baptized. So every Sunday is a day of renewal in itself. And today, even more so, because we renew ourselves in quite a few different ways today. Well, number one, being the 1st of May, being a Saturday in May, and we're dedicating it to the crowning of Mary. It's an ancient tradition, one that we've had for a long time in the Agrupación, where all the families get together, and we have representatives in those families. I think they're here today. Those who made their first communion, are you here? Who's going to crown Mary today? All right. And so we have one of our own that have renewed their faith in the Eucharist, renewing that devotion that we have to Mary outside today after Mass. Again, we couldn't do this last year, and about a year ago, again, we were still doing everything online, and I guess gatherings were still not available, were still not able to be done. We had even debate, should we do like an online version of this? And it was like, nah, you know what? You got to do this in person. And so we've held off for a year to do this. Well, 2 years, if you think, was the last time that we actually had our devotion to Mary. The second thing that we do today is renew, and some of us, not all, but some of the men here and some who are gathered here will renew themselves in their vocation as husbands, as fathers as well, to St. Joseph. On this, also the feast day of St. Joseph, May 1st, St. Joseph the Worker. We renew that vocation, and it's a very important vocation to renew. Because like I said, just as we remember Mary, we can't forget Joseph either. The two go hand in hand. And so it's proper that we renew that vocation of fatherhood and of being a husband, of family today. Immediately after, those who will gather outside in front of the statue of St. Joseph. Everyone else can remain here. You can see it out the window and out the door. We'll do the consecration right after there in front of the image of St. Joseph, and we're going to come back here. So we'll all process together, singing hymns to Mary as we go out to the statue and do the crowning there. The gospel reminds us that we cannot be alone in this life of faith. We're necessarily connected to one another. And just like families connected to one another, well, so are we in the faith. And Jesus tells us himself, he is the vine, and you are the branches. And so how were we connected to one another in the faith? Well, it has to be through Christ. Christ is what brings us together. Christ is the only reason why we're here today, at this moment, despite whatever difficulties this time still has. And so the life of faith cannot be done alone. It's not meant to be done alone either. We cannot live or be saved, one, on our own, or two, outside of Christ. For Christ is who calls us to him, and we're reminded here, Christ is the one who gathers at the end. And so, because we cannot live without Christ, and Christ is the one who calls us all together, we also can't live without each other. So it is fitting that today's also a renewal, kind of a celebration of families too. Because that's exactly what God gives us, for us to not be alone in this world. So believe it or not, your brothers and sisters, God has given them to you, so you're not alone in this world. So you're not alone in front of God either. despite what they do, and sometimes they might be troublesome. And so we renew our need for Mary. We renew our need for the church. We renew our need for St. Joseph as well on this day. Especially when we think about St. Joseph in this time. Because there's so much that works against the notion of family and perhaps even fatherhood in our day and age right now. More than ever, I think we need to turn to Joseph as fathers, as husbands. Because there's so much in the world that detracts us from what we were created to be, how we were created to be. I'm not going to go over all the examples. I was going over that in lunch today. It's things you hear and you see on TV and all that, and I think you'll know what they can be. But so much works against this vocation today. And so even more than ever, those who renew or make the first time their consecration to St. Joseph, you undertake something a little deeper today. It's a commitment, but it's also a stand that we need to take against the current of the world that kind of dissuades men and even young men from becoming fathers, from becoming husbands. So even more so, as we hear this tradition and this custom, even in the second reading, we hear about the commandment to love one another just as the Lord has loved us. This is what in Jewish tradition is called the Shema. Remember, O Israel, what is the greatest commandment? And it's put at the door of every house. When you enter the door, you might see of a Jewish home, you'll see a little scroll kind of put into there. And it's that commandment, to love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. It's the basic commandment. It's the first, the most important commandment. In a certain way, anytime you walk in or out of your house, you renew that commandment. You renew yourself in that love of God. And so we renew ourselves in his commandments, in his love today as well. Through Mary and through Joseph, who guide us, who protect us, and who lead us to their Son, Jesus Christ. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.